Alright, this is Quiz 2 Study Guide. Alright, number one. Number one says that M is the midpoint of AN. M is the midpoint of AN. A has coordinates of negative 6, 5. So A is at negative 6 and 5. M's the midpoint. So M has coordinates of negative 1, 2. Find the coordinates of N. So look, you need N. And we talked about this yesterday. So the first thing you want to do is label your points. This is your x sub 1 and your y sub 1. This is your x in the middle and your y in the middle. And this is your x sub 2 and your y sub 2. And I gave you the formula yesterday to find an endpoint on the coordinate plane. So if you replace or substitute these values into the formula I gave you to find x sub 2, your x in the middle, negative 1, is equal to your x sub 1, negative 6, plus your x sub 2, and you take all of that and you divide it by 2. And I'm going to go ahead and set up the y formula next. Alright? Your y in the middle, which is 2, is equal to your y sub 1, which is 5, plus your y sub 2, all divided by 2. And you take each equation and you solve for the x sub 2 and the y sub 2. And you do that by multiplying both sides by 2 to start with. And these 2's cancel out on the right hand side. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2 equals negative 6 plus your x sub 2. And then you can add 6 to each side. Alright, so 4 equals your x sub 2. And just repeat that same process right here. So multiply both sides by 2. These will cancel. And 4 equals 5 plus your y sub 2. Subtract 5 from each side. And negative 1 equals your y sub 2. So your coordinates for point N are going to be 4, negative 1. There's your answer. Y'all got it? Number 2. Find the length of A to B. So you've got a number line. A is at negative 4. B is between the negative 2 and the negative 1. There's a point right here, point B. So your A is at negative 4, but your B is at negative 1.5. And we said on Monday that AB would be equal to the absolute value of the difference of the coordinates. So it's negative 4 minus negative 1.5. And in your calculator, if you take negative 4 and subtract negative 1.5, you're going to get negative 2.5. And the absolute value of negative 2.5 is 2.5. So your distance from A to B is equal to 2.5. Number 3. Number 3 is just like number 1. Let's see, this is number 3. A has a coordinate of 1, -4. A is at 1, -4. M is the midpoint. M is at -2, 1. Find the coordinates of N. N is the other endpoint. Same exact process. Label your points. Here's your x1 and your y1. Your x in the middle, your y in the middle. You're looking for your x2 and your y2. Then you substitute. X in the middle, -2 is equal to x sub 1 plus x sub 2 divided by 2. And your y in the middle, 1 is equal to your y sub 1 plus your y sub 2 divided by 2. Solve each equation by multiplying by 2. These will cancel. 2 times -2 is -4 equals 1 plus x sub 2. And then you subtract 1 from each side. So -5 is equal to your x sub 2. On this right-hand equation, you multiply both sides by 2. 2 times 1 is 2 equals -4 plus your y sub 2. You add 4 to each side. And 6 equals y sub 2. So your x sub 2 is -5 and your y sub 2 is 6. And those are the coordinates for point N. Alright, number 4 is a problem that we did last week. Okay? So you've got this number line, or it's like a problem you did last week. You got C, D, and E. You're told that C to D is 4x plus 10. D to E is 35. And the entire piece is 8x. D or C to D is C to E is 8x. Find CE. You need C to E. You need the entire piece. So you got to solve for x first. So here's your setup. You've got a 4x plus 10. But you have to add that to 35. Plus 35 equals 8x. A bunch of people last week forgot to add the 35. So now you got 4x plus 45 equals 8x. You can subtract 4x from each side. Your 45 equals 4x, and you can divide by 4. (45) divided by 4. It's 11.3. So 11.3 equals your x. But you don't need x, you need C to E. this is your C to E. So C to E is equal to 8 times the 11.3. And 11.3 times 8 is 90. So C to E equals 90. The two mistakes that were made last week, people forgot to add the 35 right here. They forgot to add the 35 here and here. Alright? And then some people solved for X and chose that as their answer. But that wasn't the question. You had to substitute the X and multiply it by 8. Yes? Well, I have my calculator set to round to the nearest tenth, so it rounded it to 11.3. When you multiplied by 8, what'd you get as an answer? You didn't take your 11.25 and multiply it by 8? Everybody good there? Number 5. Alright, find CD and EF, then determine if CD, this symbol means congruent to EF. They want to know, is CD congruent to EF? Okay? Now, this could be a distance formula problem, but I want you to look at the graph. Alright? You got CD and you got EF. CD is kind of up here, and EF is over here. Alright? And this is CD, and this is EF. Now, if you want to save yourself a bunch of time, don't do the distance formula and find out if the two pieces are equal to each other. Look at point C and go straight down till you're across from point D, and then go straight over to point D. And how many units do you go down? 2. And how many units do you go horizontally? 3. So you go down 3 and you go down 2 and over 3, right? Now, do the same thing to point E. Go down and then over. And don't you go down 3 and over 2? So if one side of a triangle is 2 and the other side of a triangle is 3, and this is a right angle, don't you think that's the same as a side with 2 and a side with 3 and a right angle of another triangle? They're the same triangles, aren't they? Just kind of rotated around, flipped a little bit. But isn't this piece the same as this piece? Those two pieces are congruent, so here you got a yes. Okay? Alright, number 6. And you're asked to find the perimeter. Perimeter means how far is it around a shape? What's the distance around the outside of the shape? This is just a combining like terms problem, okay? You got this right triangle, one side is 6, one side is x plus 2, and one side is 5x. So if you wanted to know the distance around this triangle, you would take 6 plus x plus 2 plus 5x. And you would combine your variables first, alright, and x plus 5x is 6x. And then you would combine your whole numbers. You got a 6 plus a 2 is positive 8. So there's the perimeter of that triangle, 6x plus 8. Number 7. Find the coordinates of the midpoint of CM with endpoints. Alright, so we got C is at -2, -4. M is at 4, 5. And you need the midpoint. Midpoint. So, label the points. Those first couple of problems we did, problems 1 and 3, they gave you an endpoint and a midpoint, and you found the other endpoint. In this problem, you're given the two endpoints, and you're finding the midpoint. You're still going to use the same formula. Alright? This now, here's your x1 and your y1. Here's your x2 and your y2. But you're asked to find the midpoint. So you need your x in the middle and your y in the middle. So the formula you used earlier was that x in the middle is equal to x sub 1, which is -2, plus x sub 2, which is 4, divided by 2. And your y in the middle is equal to y sub 1, which is -4, plus y sub 2, which is 5, divided by 2. Now in this case, you don't have to multiply both sides by 2 because the variable is already by itself. So you just calculate. So your x in the middle is equal to, what's -2 plus 4? -2 plus 4 is 2. What's 2 divided by 2? 2 divided by 2 is 1. And your y in the middle is going to be -4 plus 5 is 1 divided by 2. It could be 0.5 or it can be 1/2, right? You may see it either way on your quiz. So your x in the middle is 1 and your y in the middle is 1/2. Number 8. Y is the midpoint of xy. I'm sorry, xz. Y is the midpoint of xz. So here's x, here's z, y is the midpoint. xy is 4x. Y to z is x plus 9. Find xy, yz, and x to z. If y is in the middle, if y is the midpoint, then y is in the middle. And if y is the midpoint, then the 4x is equal to the x plus 9. So you write an equation and solve for x. Your 4x equals your x plus 9. Subtract x from each side. 3x will equal 9. Divide by 3. Your x is equal to 3. But that's not the answer. You need x to y. So isn't this 4 times 3? X to y is equal to 4 times 3. What's 4 times 3? 12. Y to z is x plus 9. So this is 3 plus 9. And 3 plus 9 is 12. And finally you need x to z. Well, if both pieces are 12, then x to z is 24. Number 9. Distance formula. Find the distance from T to V. T is at 4, -4. V is at -3, 7. Distance formula. Label your points. X1, Y1. X2, Y2. The distance formula is in your notes. Alright, the distance between 2 points is equal to the square root of, it's x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So it's -3 minus 4 squared plus your y sub 2 minus your y sub 1. 7 minus -4 squared. Alright, -3 minus 4. -3 minus 4 is -7. -7 squared is 49. 7 minus -4. That's 11. And 11 squared is 121. And 49 plus 121 is 170. And the square root of 170 is 13. Alright, so your distance from point T to point V is 13 units. Alright, 3 to go. Number 10. Number 10, find the coordinates of the midpoint. You need the midpoint of C and N. So here C is located at -5, -2. And N is located at 2, 4. And you need the midpoint. So your midpoint, you need your X in the middle and you need your Y in the middle. So we're going to label the points again. X sub 1, Y sub 1, X sub 2, and Y sub 2. Our X in the middle is equal to X sub 1 plus X sub 2 divided by 2. And our Y in the middle is equal to Y sub 1 plus Y sub 2 divided by 2. So our X in the middle, -5 plus 2 is -3, divided by 2 is -1.5. And your Y in the middle, -2 plus 4 is 2, divided by 2 is 1. So your coordinates of the midpoint are -1.5 and 1. Number 11. Distance formula. Distance. You got point S at 6, -2. Point V is at -5, 4. So the distance between those 2 points is equal to the square root of, I forgot to label them, so we're going to label them. We got our x1 and y1, x2 and y2. So our distance is equal to the square root of x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Negative 5 minus 6 squared plus our y sub 2 minus our y sub 1. 4 minus negative 2 squared. Our distance equals the square root of negative 5 minus 6 is negative 11 squared. It's 121. 4 minus negative 2 is 6 squared is 36. And 121 plus 36 is 157. And the square root of 157 is 12.5. All right, number 12. This is a good one to finish on. Find the length of CD. C to D equals, C is at negative 4, D is at negative 1. C to D is the absolute value of the difference of the coordinates. So it's the absolute value of negative 4 minus negative 1. So that's going to be equal to the absolute value of negative 3. The absolute value of negative 3 is equal to 3. So the distance from C to D is equal to 3. Anybody have any questions?